Hello and welcome to Nintendo Voice, your voice for everything Nintendo. This is episode 138 being recorded on the 9th of May 2018. My name's Lewis Pugh, and joining me to talk all things Nintendo, we have Harrison Milfeld.
Greetings, Lewis, and I see that you, judging by our video feed right now, you are in a new area right now. Very spacious.
I am. As you video viewers from youtube.com/Nintendo Voice may see, is a change of scenery on my side. I am staying with my family for a little bit. And so the next few episodes, you shall see me here, and then some episodes after that, you shall see me in another location. All exciting things.
Who knows? It could be in a closet next time. We could probably do that. Yeah,
we could do different rooms each episode. It could be my new gimmick.
Yeah, that could be. Or no, that would have been a very good April Fool's Day thing. Whatever, we just like record from like random spots in our houses or something like that. Like I could be outside, but then again, the quality would be garbage.
That's the final point of escalation. There is you do the different rooms, and then you've used up all your rooms. Then you start after venturing outside into the wilderness, and I'm sure podcasting in such scenarios isn't recommended.
Yep, and then it's I don't know. It's the beauty of things like that.
However, we've failed to address there is only two of us here. Our dear friend Colin Crompton, unfortunately, isn't here with us today. He's hopefully sleeping by now. He's got early work. Is the message I received at least?
The way you say it, whatever it's like. Unfortunately, our dear friend, Colin, like the way if someone out of context came in to say like, "Oh, our dear friend," like, "Oh, did something really bad happen?" or something like that, it gives off that vibe. Not saying that you're doing anything, just to anybody outside who has not listened to us in these past 138 episodes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I would present that news, but hopefully I wouldn't have such a grin on my face before I do so. If I had to break that news one day.
I don't know. It's like if it ever happened to me, whatever, you could just easily say he came, he went, he never got Mother 3. There.
But hopefully without the grin. That may not sell the joke. However, this is a show about Nintendo. We do have Nintendo-y things to talk about. We have obviously some what we've been playing, including Nintendo Labo for the first time on this show, at least. And we have Nintendo news, and the big part of the news this week is Nintendo's Switch Online details, and we're going to be dissecting and discussing that, and that's also going to become our main feature for this week. And so, simple structure, what we've been playing, some Nintendo news, but we got some interesting bits in both. And I probably should mention now, I did mention at the end of last show, we had some announcements to make. We're going to put them on hold for another week. Please do look forward to them. There are some cool things coming up, but it'd be cool also to announce them when all three of us are here. And also, it wouldn't hurt to have a tiny little bit of extra time to prepare those details. But do look forward to those. Very cool things in the works.
And just to say, for anybody who's speculating right now, no, we're not starting our own Nintendo-themed food truck.
I was really hoping we were.
Oh, you were? Wait, you were planning that? But no.
I was just hoping. I was hoping someone else had that part of the deal, and they just hadn't told me it was going to spring up as a surprise.
I think that's no, that should be a Patreon tier for us right now. It's just like if we reach like 10K, but yeah, I'd love to see that. Whatever, it's like we will have to make on my end. I had to make a Nintendo themed food truck. I just naming the dishes after various Nintendo items is gonna be difficult, but it'd probably only be Kirby themed. It seems like because that's where things go.
This is music to my ears, Harrison. Anyway, let's jump straight into what we've been playing. And because I teach you some Labo, let's start with Harrison.
Sure.
What have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing a little game that I unfortunately did not get a chance to play near the end of the year. It was, and everybody else did, but I finally got around to actually buying it and downloading it and playing it, and it is SteamWorld Dig 2. Now, I want to preface, though, I did actually download the first SteamWorld Dig until when that was initially got to the Switch back in February, but I downloaded a little bit later when Image and Form did their big sale on like all the various titles. So I played through that, and knowing that these games have takes like, the characters that you have in this game are all very Steam Steam-based characters, like robots essentially run by Steam, and they're all based on like it's all the gameplay is all very Metroidvania bits, whatever, but all revolves around traversing underground using a pickaxe or any other types of drilling items to drill through the ground. And of course, that's basically with the point in your game is, there's upgrades and there's different parts of the area where you have to actually go through that you cannot access. So basically any typical Metroidvania you can think of. SteamWorld Dig 2, on the other hand, I love way so much more than right now. Not to say that SteamWorld Dig was a bad by anything. I never tried Heist, though. I heard some very good things about that as well. But this one, I just feel like even from the first hour and 2 hours I've been playing right now, it just blows almost everything what I thought for the first one. And I will say, if you're deciding to play these games in order, you really don't need to play the first SteamWorld to actually get basically what 2 is. I mean, I know there's a little bit better story in this one, perhaps, whatever, as opposed to the first one, which is just kind of non-existent. But this one, though, from everything, I mean, everything's a little bit upgraded, a little more from terms of its visual style just definitely is a little bit of slight upgrade from the first. And even that between abilities and music and things like that, I really like a bit of a charm to it. And I've had people who once told me when they fell in love with this game last year that they said in terms of Metroidvania, they actually preferred this more than Metroid: Samus Returns, a game that in terms of their other Metroidvania. So yeah, I'm really falling in love with this game.
That's fantastic. I'm just wondering, how much have you played so far?
How much have I played? About almost 2 hours right now. I've just finally gotten around to playing this right now because, like I said, the last couple of weeks I just haven't been able to play anything. It seems like I did though briefly get to play a little bit of Splatoon 2 over the weekend. Thankfully Team Raph won, so there you go.
Woo.
Mm-hmm. But no, you have not played SteamWorld Dig 2 yet, right? Or have you?
I have played SteamWorld Dig 2. I've not actually. I don't think I've necessarily played it any more than you have. I think I've put about a couple of hours into it.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoyed my time, and for some reason I've not continued. Doesn't mean I won't, for sure. I do have a habit of bouncing between a lot of games at the same time. Yeah, what I played is really cool, and I do really need to get back to it. I think, like how I commented before, it's fantastic art style, pairs well with the music. It really controls its vibe and the theme, and it is just kind of fun. It's a game which just feels like fun to play in that sense.
It's fun in the sense that it takes it
down. That core mechanic is fun to do.
Mm-hmm. It's really immerses you a lot more to what you want to do in terms of all this digging, and which sounds boring on paper, but to me, trust me, it's you really get the sense that you're basically almost essentially creating the map. It seems like the whole way, whatever. I mean, yes, everything's all slight. There's places where you can and can't go, but it just seems like you are traversing your own little platforms, whatever, the much as you're digging. So that to me, I really love so much. So, and to any new room when I get to it, any Metroidvania, a new ability like that to unlock to actually traverse and get further, I like it so much. And yeah, I have actually there's an option here where you can turn out a guide, as in where it will point you into the direction where you want to go. And to me, I have no shame in that. I mean, as much as I have really a lot of love for the subgenre of Metroidvania games, for something like this, I don't know. Maybe it's a couple of the time and real life activities, but to me, it's essential direction that I don't mind. So, but it doesn't mean that there aren't any things in here that will tickle your base of your brain to a point oh, what do I have to do next? There's still a matter of how do I get to point A to point B. That's
right. Yeah, it's not just a simple matter of just kind of following the path. You do have to still solve those puzzles on your way.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do really like about the design of SteamWorld Dig 2 is the upgrade system and how you can just when you assign points to the skill tree, at any time you can move them to different points of the tree. They're not locked in forever. You don't then have to go, oh, well, now I need 5 of these things. You go, actually, I've got 5 already. I'm just going to move them from these abilities to these other ones. And so it lets you experiment with different abilities really well. And you obviously need to collect more to have more of those things at the same time. But yeah, once you've only just got a few, you can experiment. And that's pretty cool.
Yes, and and everything. Once you get into it, whatever. I know this game is significantly longer than the first game. The first game took me about 4 hours to beat. This one, I think, at least more than so doubles it. It just like a freight train. Once you get into things like this, whatever, you will be surprised at how much time kind of flies by when you're actually playing this.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's a very charming, welcoming
Oh,
game. Yeah, and
charming, easily charming. I mean,
perfect
there's something
comparison.
about the design that I really like.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's like all the SteamWorld games I've played, which are all but the that tower defense one on the DSi. They've all got this very clear vision. It's very cohesive. It's it's a really nice style.
Hmm.
Interesting to see like how far they go with this. Um, but yeah, SteamWorld Dig 2 is it feels a bit of a statement before I've beaten the game, but I feel like the vertical chunk I have is it's much more of a refinement of the first, and it's in a grander scale as well.
Exactly.
It seems so it's
It takes something
pretty
that what
cool.
I felt, yeah, it takes something that I felt like was a very great idea, but very, I wouldn't say bare bones, but in style, like in presentation, you're just like, oh, that's a little neat, but then there are significant upgrades to it in terms of its production.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it's another one of those good examples where you've got this kind of core mechanic which works and is fun to do, but it's a mechanic which also supports these other supporting mechanics, which make it interesting and don't feel like they're just being bolted on to add something new. They do
Hmm.
like work in tandem, so it is really cool they've done that. I think they've stated that they wouldn't do a free, or I'm not sure how official that is. Like they, what they've got out of the system is two. Like they feel they've put all their ideas into that game
Hmm.
for that style. Never say never, of course, but
Exactly.
I think kind of that statement alone, like, tells you a lot about that game. It is like bursting with these ideas, and they do all work very well together, and it is all really well thought out. It's not just this churned out sequel for the sake of it.
No, I mean there was definitely some thought and care put into this in terms of even a little bit of the story, even if it's in the background, but still, from people told me the story, it's like it gets a little heartfelt near the end.
Yeah, and if it's anything like the very end of the original game, I feel if they step that up as well, there's definitely interesting things to mine there.
Exactly.
Cool. Should we talk about a little bit of Labo?
Yes, because I'm interested in your your cardboard creations.
Yeah, I've not really shared my thoughts on it. The only thing I've really um, talked about is I on Twitter asked for a request of what to build next, and this was after I built the RC cars. And
Build independently or build out of the box?
oh, just out of the box, as in
Okay.
I should I guess back up a bit. So I got the variety kit.
Hmm.
And so in the variety kit, you got these 5 different projects you can make, and you're not. Well, actually, I guess technically there's a 6th, which is a tiny project, which you have to do before you do any of the main ones,
Hmm.
which is a little Joy-Con holder, which is just basically a box which you put a Joy-Con in, which like fits in quite snugly, and then you get the option of building one of the 5 proper ones. And the first one, which makes sense to do, is the RC cars. And the handy thing is, it tells you like an estimated time of how long it would usually take to make one of these projects.
Wait, so okay, so it tells you this is the set time if you went this way, how much you could build it.
That's right. Yeah, right up front. Like, so before you even choose, like right next to the names, it will tell you, oh, RC cars, approximately 10 minutes to build. And then it's got like piano, approximately like 160 minutes. And you go, okay, let's start.
Okay, with the RC cars, did you at least put like we said last time, put kitchen knives on them like some people did?
I've not equipped them with kitchen knives yet or any sort of sharp utensils. Just the basics. But with Labo, you are primed. You can adjust. You can rebuild. You can attach knives.
If you feel like this thing wants to be your own cardboard killing machine, please do.
Yeah, and I guess RC cars is a good place to start, really. And I'd already seen quite a lot about Labo, and so I knew a lot of the in quotes kind of hidden features and like the in quotes advanced stuff. Because like the initial reveal trailer didn't show much at all. Like in terms of the RC cars, it just showed them moving,
Mhm.
and that was about it. And that you could control it with remote control. And then through later on videos, they showed off things like, oh, you can actually see what the IR camera sees. You essentially get like this sort of um, kind of night vision, and it is night vision. It's this really low res shot. I mean, it looks like better than a Game Boy camera.
I think anyway. Wait. There's something worse than a Game Boy camera.
Like potentially there could be, but I mean, this thing was never advertised as being like a camera you would ever see the results out of, and so I'm still impressed that it's anything which is even recognizable. Because I just think, oh, it's it's like a camera technically, but it's not really. It's just a big sensor, and it can sense like rough shapes, because that's all they kind of promised out of it. Like, oh, it could tell the difference between like five fingers with a hand open up to like four or something, or it could be rock paper scissors. But no, with it you can purely by looking at the screen, like drive your RC car, which is obviously just cardboard with two Joy-Cons inside it, like around a room, even with the lights off. It's quite impressive, really. And there's some other cool things you can do with it. There's you can change I'm not sure I'm going to use the right terminology here, but there is like a hertz meter for each Joy-Con, so you can essentially change the strength of the vibration or the frequency, which would make more sense, and you can do that independently as well, and so you can see what it's like going over different terrain with different frequencies, and like what works better and doesn't, and you can like just change them into little sliders, and I like sliders. And another cool thing is you can do self-driving stuff, in the sense that from the view of the IR camera, it can drive towards things which are close to it. And so, like, if you put your hand next to it or to the left of it, it will kind of drive and follow it. And it works quite well. And you can also use this little reflective tape which comes with it, and it tells you to put some targets, which you do, and these kind of optional builds. And it will follow the targets, but with the reflective tape, they can be quite far away. And when I say quite far, like a couple of meters. And it will be able to see where it is and steer itself to it. And so there's some quite cool things going on. And one of the things that I kind of saw, but I didn't really think it was an actual mode, was the 2-player battle thing for if you have two RC cars. And you kind of see, I saw the two pictures of two of them next to each other, but I assume they were just, I don't know, like two switches, even though I knew that it came with two of them. But the way that works is that it will split the screen up, and you've got like a mirrored set of like controls. And so you can have two people holding onto the switch on either sides, and they can control each of the cars. And when it will actually like sense when you're knocked over, and so it will show up on the screen like when someone's defeated and when someone wins.
Like it's hit detection, whatever, or something like that. Or is it like, I know the RC cars when you're actually going through whatever, like, or am I getting confused with like the ones that have like, okay, not like a car with wheels, but it just a car. It's basically have these. It's like almost like a little bug thing.
Yeah, it looks like a bug, but they call it an RC car.
Interesting. Okay. No, but yeah, there's points where like it can detect whatever when it's on its side and stuff. Whatever when if it's defeated or if it's hit so much. That's what you're getting to. If it's hit, then it will detect it.
I think it's basically boils down to if it's just been knocked over, and that's ultimate victory. So there's no like health to it. It's just if you knock the other person over, obviously they lose and you win, but it does present that, so it's like a game in itself. And so yeah, just this RC car, the one which took 10 minutes to make, there was I had a lot of fun out of it, really. And because I built it with a friend nearby, and then afterwards we were just like messing around and playing with it, and we actually had a surprising amount of fun just playing with these little remote control cardboard bug things. And that 2-player thing worked quite well. Like, I think the question with a lot of this Labo stuff is like, will you return to it factor? And for that, I'm not sure. But for that initial session, it was surprisingly fun for the most simplest of projects which come in that variety kit. And the other thing I made, which I won't jump into just yet, I'll just quickly ask if you've got any questions related to the RC car project. Before I announce what
really
that is.
Really nothing as much as I could say to off on there, but
or maybe just like Labo in general.
Well, Labo in general. Did you? the one thing I've been hearing from people like this is that it's getting to build these things is the fun part, and then if it's like once it's done, the novelty kind of feels like it wears it off almost like quickly. It feels like with something, but I think the one thing as far as the variety pick that I'd really be kind of cool to play is obviously the little piano. I think that's one thing. I think that's I'd be interested to see what you will probably build out of it. So,
Yeah.
But no, that's like one complaint I've heard from just people from several friends I know that like you're getting the joy of building out of this, and then as soon as you finish it though, it kind of wears off after a few. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just build the next one, But that's kind of the case when you see with like, I mean, obviously it's different. Let's say if I'm dealing with Lego blocks. And notice I said Legos because for some reason apparently Lego is both singular and plural. So they prefer Lego blocks. So unless I yeah, but enough I was saying is that it's fun to build Lego like a Lego block like, with Legos. I just said that there. And then obviously with the Labo, I feel like that's going to be the same kind of thing for me. But again, it's marketed to for kids, but also for kids at heart, for things like that. And I don't blame it. I I can understand if it's not people's jam, like, oh, it's not for me. That's cool. But someone's to actively say this is the dumbest thing out there. I'm just like, it's not necessarily whatever. But yeah,
it may not be for you. Yeah, simple as that. But yeah, like in terms of how much I'll be going back to this stuff, I'm not sure yet. Because I only recently started this, and I've spaced these things out. So I've built 2 things out of the 5 so far. And the second one, and so this was in the result of the poll I put out on Twitter. So the 4 different options. The piano was one of the options. There was also the fishing rod. We had the house, and you have the.
What's the specific of the house? I'm always curious.
Yeah, interesting. You should ask. So let's jump straight to that. So the house won on the Twitter vote. I assumed people were going to go for the piano, and it was a close second. But the house won, so I can explain what the house is now because I wasn't entirely sure. And so
is this your new house that you're building? Is that what you're getting? Is that what you're getting into? That you'll be living in your Labo house?
I could do. I mean, it might require some sophisticated video editing techniques and me not actually living in a house, but it could happen.
Then a few inches shorter too.
True, yeah, one or the other. I make a grand Labo house, but it would be a very strange place to live in, and the reason why is because Labo house is a very strange thing. So the build itself, this was a much bigger build than the cars, which was advertised as 10 minutes ish, and the house. I can't remember the exact time, but it was over an hour, I believe. I don't think by much, but about that length. So it was about an hour build. So quite a lot of cardboard involved, and they all come in these coloured sheets, and it's easy to identify what cardboard you need for which project you're working on. They're numbered as well. They got little logos on the corners, and because I didn't mention it previously, it is easy to like pop out the cardboard, like the different bits you need. And another little bit is the sheets are a lot thinner than I was expecting. I'm not entirely sure why, but I was expecting like more like thicker cardboard sheets. And like when you're just starting stuff, it does feel and this is kind of opposite to reports I initially heard, like quite weak. But the interesting thing is, as you build these things, because of the way they're constructed, the way it makes you fold things and do other parts, you end up with a very rugged object, which is pretty cool in itself. And so the house is made up of different parts, and so you've got the house in itself is the main part, so it looks like a cardboard house. And there's a place for you to like dock the switch into, basically, and there's holes left and right of it and underneath, and there's a weird chimney which you can slide a Joy-Con in, also quite snugly, like the Joy-Con holder. And the other things you build are these widgets, which you can put in the various compartments of the house. And one is a button, one is like I think they call it a key lock, and the other is so I've got the button, the key lock, and I can't remember what the other is. I'm sure it'll come to me. But you're making these little widgets, and they're quite tangible in the sense that, like, the button, even though this one in particular, at least, is entirely just cardboards. Without anything else, it does, have a proper spring to it. You push it down, and you let go, and you releases it, and then this thing pops. The button does pop out. Quick response as if there was a spring in it, which there's not. And the key lock one also includes a rubber band inside. But this is quite satisfying. You can pull it 90 degrees, you let go, and it snaps back. And these widgets are like these kind of weird little builds, mini projects in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can insert them in the various compartments of the house, and that's what the kind of the in quotes game is, which is this little creature who lives in the house.
Okay, this is getting interesting.
Exactly, yeah. And I kind of initially thought, oh, maybe it's like a Tamagotchi type thing or something. You got to like look after it. But you just kind of like, depending on what widgets you've got in the compartments, like the room changes. And even if it can just be like the order, like you can have the same, like say 2 objects or 3, but if you swap them round, the room might change entirely. And the whatever the widget is will kind of roughly translate to what comes poking out that side of the house. And so if you have like the button in there, it might be like the light switch on the right side of the wall. But if you put it on the left side of the wall, it's a button which does something else. And depending on the different combinations, like some of the rooms that it might transform into are like games in themselves. Like one of them, and you might have seen a video of this, is like this minecart mini game. And you'll use the spring-loaded button. I think it's on the bottom of that point to make it jump on this minecart, and you got like dodge obstacles on the ground and not jump when there's things kind of on the ceiling swinging by. And so each one, there's lots of like these kind of micro games type things, and there's some zany things you can do, just like mess around the house. And it also works on like the accelerometer and the Joy-Con, so you can like shake it and things happen. And so it's just kind of like a toy box type thing. But it is quite nice. There's I don't think they've really shown much of them, just because they may not sound so interesting, but it was quite nice building those little widgets, and they look nice as well just outside the house. They look like these weird like mechanical cardboard objects which shouldn't really exist. That's quite cool. But yeah, like I'm not sure I'll be going back to the house, which kind of goes back to that question you asked initially. I think a lot of these Labo things could just be like, it's fun to show off. Like if you've got a friend around who's not seen it, go check out this weird thing. It's called Labo. And you like pull out your cardboard house from a shelf or something. And that would be a very fun novelty for that person for a little bit. And I think, yeah, some of the beauty of Labo is just like, you look at it and it's like, this shouldn't work, because you are just adding cardboard to this like game console without any extra components, and it does really weird stuff. And I think that the RC car is a good example of that, because it's this 10-minute build, and there's these lots of things, lots of features for it. And even somebody who was following it closely, there were some of them which even I wasn't expecting. And so the last thing I want to say about Labo, because those are the 2 builds I've done, is kind of the presentation of the whole thing. And it has that, Nintendo charm and style that you would expect. But it also has some other bits you may not be expecting, like the tutorial extra help type system. They narrate it with these kind of unique characters, which are named, and they have jokes, and it's kind of told in like this kind of text message style system. And they'll send each other messages and like picture messages. And this is also how you can unlock or at least find out about in sometimes some of the like hidden features. But yeah, it is a really nice package, and I'm looking forward to doing the other 3 builds. I think like the fishing rod's going to be a fun one to do. I think the piano is going to be a fun one to do. The motorbike's the other one I forgot to mention earlier, and that looks like it could be quite interesting as well. And it's cool that some of them kind of link into each other. And there's the whole Toy-Con garage stuff, which I've not played around with yet. And
there's also the robot kit, the robot kit as well.
There is the robot kit as an option, an extra additional option there. I'm still not convinced about the robot kit yet. I think I'll have to see something which does surprise me about it before I go out and buy it. If it is just what I've seen so far, it looks cool, but I think it's that balance between the fun of building the thing and how much fun you're going to have with the thing after you've built it. So yeah, I'm not convinced on the robot kit yet, even though it does come with some cardboard shades, which are very cool.
Now, as much as I again, the building aspects of this is what kind of really impresses, like that really interests me a lot. And it seems to be that there's some people actually enjoying it. I'm curious what Nintendo's probably going to be doing as far as future sets, probably in the future, like going down the line, what they'll do. I mean, there could easily be a possibility they may release something like the idea of them releasing another set like this during the fall holiday season could not be out of it's in the realm of possibility. But I think that, like I think I said before on the show, is that if I ever building these things, it's just aside from games, that there's really I don't want too much stuff to actually get around my house to be sitting around. I know these things are biodegradable, but yeah, and I just know probably some one night, my drunken night or something like that, people are just gonna be like, oh, what's this? And they just break them. I mean, I've been through college where I've seen people destroy Guitar Hero controllers right now. Granted, those are harder, but these though, I would not want to be like, oh, I gotta spend $80 to build these again. But then again, I could technically make another one out of cardboard. It'd be a lot harder, but still.
This is true. So yeah, I mean, like, I'm excited about the garage stuff. More so that, not that I will necessarily come up with some interesting ideas, or that might be fun to try. But if, and I've already seen some really cool examples on the internet of just what people have done. But if there's also examples of what people have done and how they've done it, that could be a cool use of it in the future, just like recreating projects that other people have made. And so you essentially get like a lot more kits out of your variety kit than you initially bought, because all you need to add is cardboard at that point and like just follow the designs on the internet. So that'd be cool to see. I imagine we'll be seeing more of that sort of stuff as well.
But yeah, it seems like. But I will hopefully, hopefully one of these days I'll try that out. Or if somebody has it, I'd like to build, try them, especially the fishing rod on the piano. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to show off my things at some point, but I have to add some extra flair to them because currently they're just bog standard Labo as you would expect. So I think it's time for the Nintendo news.
It is.
It is. All right then. We teased our big feature, and we've got a little bit of news before we get there, which is around Luigi's Mansion for the 3DS. It's top of the news, and the reason why is because we found out who's actually developing this game.
And it's not who we originally thought it was going to be.
No, it's not Next Level Games, who made Luigi's Mansion 2 or Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
That's what Luigi's. It's called Luigi's Mansion 2 over in
Europe. It is, yeah.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was only Japan only, but okay, yeah.
It might, yeah. I think it is Japan as well, but yeah, definitely that in Europe. My version of the game is called Number 2. Which is cool. But it's a very slight tangent. Before we get to the actual news, I wonder if that means we'll ever see a 3, because there was this split where America's was never called 2, unless the rest of the world gets a 3 and America gets another subtitle sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
technically, when you look at, there's always the different name titles and territories. I mean. What was it? Like Super Mario Brothers 2 was originally called Super Mario Brothers USA. They called it Super Mario USA since, of course, they received the original Super Mario Brothers 2, and then the Donkey Kong Country games were just called Super Donkey Kong.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess we're no stranger for differences, but generally, Nintendo's got a lot better at that. But I guess this example where they're still not quite perfect. But the news of the day, the news around Luigi's Mansion 3DS. Is the developer is Grezzo, who was the developer who made the ports of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time at 3D and Majora's Mask 3D for the 3DS, and Ever Oasis.
A game which I still need to try, but knowing that with the Switch, right, I don't know. I've heard good things for that, and that was a game I was actually pretty excited when they first announced for it, and then as it kind of approached, I'm like, oh, there's too many games to play right now. But anyway, so Grezzo is developing this.
Exactly, yeah. So that also kind of leads to the question, what is Next Level Games up to? Because we all assumed it was this.
Yeah, especially with you'd figure that they were able to kind of kindly use all the assets that they had done to possibly use for this, this done well, slightly does some down a little bit port of a a GameCube game, and I don't know, but yeah, it does ask like what is Next Level Games actually working on to, but also this kind of brings up a question of like, after Grezzo is getting like extending their wings a little bit more with Ever Oasis, like an original IP in Ever Oasis, he figured that they would have been moving beyond 3DS hard like development, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. So now the reason why we found this out, this was off from it was off from a classification board. That's the reason why people found that out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Australian classification board listed Grezzo as the developer, and that's a pretty good source, to be honest.
Yeah,
and so yeah, I mean, it might be the case that Next Level has jumped onto making something for the Switch, where we assumed it may have been Grezzo's turn. But no, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to find out what those guys are up to.
Yeah. Now, does this would this personally change your mind about like? I mean, knowing that whatever that's coming out on the Switch this fall though is going to take most of their time, and the 3DS is just, as we saw evidence last week, that they plan on keeping this going. Like Kimishima said that he wants to keep this thing probably going, hopefully up and through 2019 and beyond, which is mind-boggling to me, but I can understand because this is until they see this point where it's not selling as well, they'll pull the plug. But it's just that thing just continues just to probably just to chug along at some pace. But even though I'm not particularly excited for Luigi's Mansion on 3DS, it's a one that I like as much. I love Dark Moon. It almost gives the incentive to want to come back and try that again because I was never as hard on Luigi's Mansion as a game, like its original form, as many people were, because I think that had to lead to the fact that like it was just not a core Mario title that people were looking for because at that time it was the first time that we never did get a core Mario title launched alongside a system like a Nintendo console. And for this one though, and I feel like Luigi's Mansion got a bit of a bad rap from that. I mean, the one thing I kind of I kind of shunned away from it though was that its length and during its price. I mean, I don't know, we talked on like length and like how much to justify the price and such, whatever. But I feel like it was like that game like, wow, I enjoyed that, but man, that was over in a flash.
Yeah, I think ironically, like that has helped the game age better. Where I think at the time of its release, people would look at a game which only lasted a few hours. And they would be a lot more critical of it than they are today, where it is a lot more accepting that, this is like, say, new Smash indie thing, which is only like 2 hours, but it's this really cool, narrative experience or whatever. I think we're a lot more open to games of length, just length from tiny games to huge games. And all those can be very good games in their own right. And so, yeah, I think it's a good time to bring out Luigi's Mansion. Unfortunately, I'm going to be one of those people who just rabbit on that. I just wish it was for the Switch.
I definitely agree on there, but I won't bang on too much on there because I played Dark Moon before, so I'm comfortable with it sitting on there and trying it out, even if I get my time away from my Switch.
Yeah, like the nice thing about it though is like we did find out, and I think it was in a What or Ask, that the Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube was originally designed, or there was some sort of version of it with 3D support for the GameCube.
Yeah, I do remember reading about that. I think it was like that. I think like Nintendo at one point was way ahead of the game. It seemed like on that one, but again, nothing really came to materialize from that. And same thing with 3D televisions. I feel like that itself is kind of went on the wayside.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I think it's good that the original Luigi's Mansion will get its chance in 3D, because that was a really cool thing about Dark Moon. It was a very cool looking 3D game. So it fitted the 3DS really well. So it'd be cool to play this original version with the option of 3D.
No, I totally agree.
Before the time passes us by.
I don't know. I think that game alone, even like Majora's Mask, and you could probably even say with like Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, I think that's one of the few titles out there I feel like in Super Mario 3D Land 2 is that yeah, even though it's an afterthought when you think the 3D slide feature on there, it's worth turning on to check it out.
Okay, and now we got the big news of today, which is the Switch is online. Details came out just today of recording, and we basically we do have more details. So a lot of this is it's not
everything's laid out now as promised. They said
there's no like grand changes as such. Like this fits into that like core like structure that they initially said would happen, but we do have more interesting details, some actual like new features we weren't aware of. And so let's start off with kind of the headlines here. And so I guess I think this is the big headline. I'm not sure Nintendo knew it was the big headline or not, but we're getting cloud saves.
That is yes, and I think as we mentioned last week in last week's episode, where I went on a small rant of why we needed this, and there were some doubts from people about that Nintendo would implement this. But yeah, we are getting cloud saves. We are getting save data based on cloud saves. Finally, something that should have been at the beginning, and yes, other companies have mastered right the way. The only problem though is with this is that knowing that the light is at the end of the tunnel for finally getting ways to back up your save data, it's the fact like, oh wow, we have like you gotta wait for like almost 5 months for this right now. So if you have a Switch, just be careful with it.
That's true. Yeah, that's a very good point. The thing I'm a little bit concerned about this is, and it's not in all of the language they use around it, but at least in one of them, there's like a little asterisk there, and then it says incompatible games.
Yeah, I read that. No, there's a lot of when you go through like these like the official like a site when detailing all the information. It's just once you go through like yeah, okay, expected, and okay, that's a nice surprise. But then you read through between the lines and you just see those little caveats right there, and you're just like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's just them being super careful, opposed to they have to actually like add in updates for games to support it or something weird.
Well, I was reading about this would that mean something like say Pokemon Switch would not be able to implement this or does this also open up the fact that this obviously does open up that Pokemon Bank will probably in some shape or form maybe come to Switch or in some ways where you can transfer your Pokemon. But as far as everything else, I forgot what I was reading why they said like somebody was mentioning why cloud storage for like a main RPG Pokemon could not be feasible or something like that.
That might be the reason. In the way that it's probably you never want to like duplicate Pokemon.
I think that's it. It's just a matter of duplicating everything.
Yeah, well, as a player you might, but as Nintendo, you want to control that. You don't want someone to be able to duplicate their save file and then have multiples of those same Pokemon to trade or to whatever of, because like oddly it's a bit of a weird one because like I completely understand it's that person's they've bought that game, they should be able to kind of back up their save files and do what they want, but it was also, and I sound like the worst Nintendo apologist ever here, like it does kind of keep that's our show, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that's our show. Like, I think you just hit that there. That it's like we're not Nintendo voicing Nintendo apologists. The show.
Yeah, we might need to do a little sub brand for that one. I'll look for the domain. Shouldn't have said that live. Anyway, but the fact that because Pokemon are unique, you can't just build like the ultimate spec and just like duplicate it a bunch of times, but put it out on the market. It does make the game more fun to play and to raise your own. And it also makes like the competitive scene a lot more interesting as well.
Exactly.
So hopefully it's for like cases like that, opposed to like, a bunch of them won't work on it. Hopefully in the cases it doesn't work, it makes sense. And then there's again, continuing the apologist trend here, there's a solution like Bank or something where you can store them there. I'm not sure if I'm talking myself in loops here, but that seems to work on the 3DS. But with Bank, of course, you would also be able to actually transfer them from 3DS to Switch, which I think the Pokemon Company would want to keep around. I think that was kind of the whole point of making Bank in the first place.
But yeah, it's. What's your thoughts of though? Okay, knowing between PC and Xbox Live, you don't have the option to pay for save data through the cloud. PS4 though, I believe that does. You need to pay for that right there. Now, I think that this would be a good segue. I think this goes into the pricing on here, but overall, yeah, I feel like something that you should not be able to pay a price for something like this is for the feature on there. But then again, you realize for online ecosystems, they need money to run these things, well. So I kind of get it, but I guess that's like ways back to the price, which I believe I'm totally fine with.
Yeah. So yeah, let's jump into the pricing. So American pricing. Actually, do you know if the main points here are changed from when they earlier announced the pricing? It looks quite similar to me, but what we have,
I think the 1 month and 3 month and 12 month and 1 year are virtually the same.
They're the same, but we've also extra bits now. Okay, so yeah, for buying a single month on its own, $3.99 dollars. For 3 months, it's $7.99. If you buy to 12 months, it's $19.99.
What is that in pounds for you guys?
Over in the UK, at least, we have £3.49 for 1 month, $6.99 for 3 months, and then $17.99 for 12 months. So,
I think it's safe to say we're buying the full year on this one, though.
Exactly. Yeah, it kind of makes sense too. Especially if you like some of these other features as well. What is new though? There's going to be a family membership, and it's going to be available in a 12 months option, which will let up to 8 people, I believe, which don't have to be on the same system, because that's the other thing. This will be locked per profile, and so if you buy any length of membership and it's not the family membership, it will only apply to one of those profiles on your Switch.
Okay, so everything that's not the family membership essentially is tied to your system that's on your profile on your one Switch, whereas the family membership, this is looking at the best deal. I mean, if you have, for me, I can't do it because I don't have that many people here living with me and people but yeah, that seems like a steal if you have a very large family, like a few people you want to use with.
That's right. And I guess the other thing, which won't apply to many people, but in theory, you could use that for just if you want to have multiple saves. For games which only have, say, like a single save slot, you could use the family plan with multiple Switch profiles. And then you could back up multiple sets of saves. The reason I'm saying it's not that much more expensive, and you've got like these 8 extra options. I'm wondering if Nintendo's going to put anything in place to stop people abusing this system though.
See, yeah, that's definitely a good question to ask in here, whatever, because like you said, much like when we were talking about cloud saves, it's like I hope Nintendo's found a way not to exploit things like this, especially at price. But
I don't mind if they've not found a way. I mean, that's
well, yeah,
consumer friendly. That's their prerogative, not ours, really, to not let people use it not in the intended way. But yeah, it seems very easy currently to get like 8 online friends together, and just add in all your accounts. I think maybe their main mechanism of defense here is just it's my opinion at least fairly good value, at least compared to the competition, and so it might just be more hassle for 8 people to like settle that like small payment than it is for them just to get their own single plans together or individually.
And knowing that, like, I guess with other companies, you'll be able to buy these through the eShop, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, directly from the Switch's eShop, or just online as you would expect, just through their website.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, cards through store and all that. Okay. Typical. All right.
Right, yeah.
So we're all dead set thing. Like, we like the price here. It's just a matter of what else we're about to dig through here right now. That is, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're doing like direct comparisons between like Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network, obviously Nintendo wins if you're just looking at the pricing.
Yes, it wins in your pricing. Now, in terms of features, still a ways to go.
There's some ways to go.
Yeah, yeah, there's potential.
There's potential. Yeah. Let's start with, or let's carry on with another the headliners, which is, and I'm not sure they've got an actual name for this yet, but I'm going to call it their classic archive. And so you've got starting with 20 NES games, and this is a big change from what they originally said, which was going to be one a month. So I'm glad they've changed their tune. I feel they've heard the reaction from that online.
I think they did, especially, and it's one of those rare moments that basically a crying, like, you know, when the internet said, "Hey, Nintendo, don't do this or improve on this." So it's like, okay, we're doing this, but yeah. I feel like there's more to this. I feel like they're doing, which, especially.
Yeah, not just 20 classic NES games, but all of these games will have online support in some way. And again, this is where you have to kind of read into the details of the site of these announcements. And so these modes of play will vary, kind of as you would expect, because lots of different types of games are being offered here. And so, for example, on the game front, you've got games like soccer, tennis, Mario Bros, Balloon Fight, The Legend of Zelda, Dr. Mario, Mario Bros. 3, and a bunch of others. And so a lot of these games aren't even multiplayer games, like The Legend of Zelda, for example.
I'm not sure about, but can I just first state, as far as, okay, I loved my NES. I loved my NES. Super Nintendo more, and still probably is my favorite Nintendo console of all time, as evidence of me, you know, having to pick up like 3 Super Nintendo classics for people up there, including one for myself. I'm not all too impressed with this NES lineup, knowing that the Switch is it's a prime spot for, you know, getting all these new classic titles on here, which, I mean, I guess it's fair to say right now that, as we mentioned on here, Nintendo did confirm that the Virtual Console name and branding is no more, or they do not plan to do it, which, of course, I saw, let's just say a bunch of people got a little bit out of hand with it, saying like, oh, this means no more to the Virtual Console. It just meant the branding is gone. It's the service itself that they've been doing for like almost the past 10 plus years is just, Nintendo's trying to improve on this right now, which essentially is hopefully their Netflix style of classic games. And essentially, when you mention the branding, I think it's just going to be going to branding under just the classic symbol. I think we've seen that on the boxes on the, you know, the mini consoles that we have for the NES and the Super Nintendo. It's just for these titles though, NES, I just have no desire to do that. I know there's some people who want to pick up and play some of these classic games, but out of maybe Dr. Mario and Balloon Fight to play online, nothing here really just entices me or interests me that much. And there's still 10 more games to play. And by the way, if they announce Urban Champion for this, I will laugh. I will laugh till I die, basically, if they do that. That'd be some prime trolling to do that if they decide to. I mean, but it's does this mean probably that they're going to be slowly rolling out probably Super Nintendo games or more in the style of this? And but I don't know. Like, what do you think, Lewis?
I'm not sure. I mean, I imagine at some point we'll get the Super Nintendo, unless they decide to handle Super Nintendo differently. But I'm at least relieved to know that, because we thought we're only getting like one game at a time. To get like this list of 20 and then be told there will be other games which will add to this. And that's the wording. It's not that, oh, we'll like freshen up the collection of games every so often. It's that we'll add games to the collection which you will have access to, and you'll continue to have access to everything you had before. And so, and they also used the wording, and again, you know, take this for what it is, but they will say they will regularly update. So I'm kind of hoping this is just one of these things which kind of grows in time. Like, remember when when the Virtual Console released, there was half a dozen or so games originally.
I remember when the Virtual Console essentially released with the backup with the Wii, that had quite the drip feed. It just seemed like every week it's like, hey, here's 3 new games. And then, of course, as we saw near the end of the Wii era, it just tanked, as in terms of like we saw the drip feed came from like almost seemed like 3 games a week to almost like once or twice a month.
That's true, you look back at it now, and the Virtual Console for the Wii is like almost renowned. It's got this fantastic library. It's got hundreds of games for loads and loads of systems, all in this one place. And if this eventually turns into anything of that scale, and you're getting this from this set price. That's a big change because, like, I gathered a vast collection of Virtual Console stuff, but that stuff adds up as well. If it's just this rolling Netflix subscription, and they're just going to keep adding,
adding or taking things out, like say for instance, hey, here's for 1 month, whatever. Here's basically these, whatever. Then it just switches over. I mean, as long as you're kind of just giving the bit of the quality of the games keep coming in. I mean,
as long as the numbers keep going up in general, I'd say, yeah. I think it would be. I'm hoping at least more rare, especially especially for the first party stuff, for things to drop, just because they don't need to pay for licensing in that sense. Then I think this could be a really cool success of the Virtual Console. Obviously, time's going to tell on that one, and I don't think it will take too long. It's just when we have an understanding what that schedule's looking like, what sort of pace these things are coming out. Are we talking like an extra 1 a month, or are we talking like an extra 20 a month?
Well, it may be probably something lower to that, knowing. I mean, I know Nintendo has such a huge back catalog of classic games, but knowing that this is just probably going to be things from their first-party output, because that we know of. Because I mean, looking at what Capcom or even like what they're doing the SNK like Neo Geo Classics games, they're releasing these in separate formats and separate discs and physical editions, as opposed to that. So they're free to do whatever they feel like with them. I don't know if that changes in the near future or not, but you could probably definitely see something where you don't want them to just hey, here's everything right now. That just, you want to create some buzz around hey, this set right here is going to be released. This set's going to be released. Now, I know people are going to be upset about the idea of the naming of the Virtual Console being gone. To me, I think I'm kind of glad Nintendo sort of finally pulled the plug, just pulled the plug on that. It felt like it was a long time coming, because as excited as I was and just great to play these games on from Wii to the Wii U era, despite the slow trickling out of games and just things that really just upset me back there is the fact you were paying. I feel like you were paying so much more of a premium price for certain games that shouldn't be costing that much, and to me that's what really soured the branding. Now, the only thing that really I know that can upset people is that, yeah, you mean I'm going to have to essentially buy Mario 64, what seems like for the 4th time, if that actually comes in here. I get that being upsetting, and I think I get that this is just Nintendo trying to find a format where it's okay, we need to just start over. We just need to start over and make sure that, we don't want to continually nickel dime people like that. I know people will say that. And this seems like a good idea to start. Now, what they have so far, I'm not impressed, but it has the potential to be better.
That's right. That's fair. I think I wouldn't necessarily call it my big concern, but I think an area where I'm unsure of is the fact that these are purely NES titles currently. Because
they like you said, they took the NES branding or name out of this, and it's does this mean Nintendo's gonna have a stopgap of something, it's just going to be NES games only, or could it just be, let's say hypothetically SNES games do come here?
Going by just the wording that they've said today, I feel that they could just release NES games and they've kind of fulfilled their obligations. But I'm hoping that's not what all this is.
Because I know what was it? Was it okay? This is for as long as we're doing the show. Was it the Wii U or was it the Switch that they promised GameCube games? I on Virtual Console. When was that?
That's the thing. I don't think Nintendo ever has promised it.
Did they hint at it?
I think everyone just assumed, but I think the logic was purely on the Wii. They had everything up to the N64. So I think people just assumed, the next logical step is you add GameCube.
Now,
so people go, when are you going to add GameCube? And people say, all right, it's the Switch's turn. Surely they'll have a Virtual Console, and part of that will be added GameCube support.
I think we're getting to that. I feel like, though, I could easily just see being N64. Well, then there's the idea of Game Boy Advance games possibly coming here too, and Game Boy Color, all that as well. Do you believe, though, that it could be all easily that they don't actually release GameCube games on there? Not because it's not possible, but knowing this era right now that we saw, especially Twilight Princess and even Wind Waker, that just seems like more of a market that Nintendo would see ripe for like remasters. Like, there could be, who knows, that rumor, like a rumored like, oh, a Metroid Prime trilogy in HD that they would redo. I mean, it's better than like re-releasing, say, the original Prime with non-Wii motion, like with a not with basically it's basic, like it's a not non-dual analog controls that it had back then. So, I don't know. I'm just saying that seems like in a business standpoint, Nintendo probably would see like, let's try and remaster this instead of just putting on as far as a classic, whatever. I could easily see that being there, but then again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a strong argument of why you would definitely consider that before you would offer such a service, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where it would be good to remake one of these games, but you're already selling it for a significant discount as a virtual console game. So if you're already selling, for example, say Twilight Princess on your virtual console, say on the Wii U, then no one's going to buy necessarily like Twilight Princess HD, or they're not going to have that incentive if they can buy it for a lot cheaper on that system already. And so, yeah, I think that could be part of the decision. But it's hard to tell before they do anything but NES titles. I'm hoping we'll get not just obviously more Nintendo systems, but the cool thing about Virtual Console was that, especially for the Wii, there were a bunch of other non-Nintendo systems on there.
Oh yeah, TurboGrafx 16, Neo Geo, even from the Genesis and up to the Master System.
Yeah.
That's what really made it such a great little platform on there until it was, it just essentially met by its own. It died in its own sword.
Yeah, and it even added you had like arcade systems on there, and you had the more like the micro PC console type stuff, which is bigger here in Europe. But yeah, you had this range, and I'm hoping we see something like this, or whether we see something similar. Like, I wouldn't be against the idea necessarily that this is a service, but then there's like an additional like Virtual Console Vault or something, which would be if it wasn't impressive as like, oh yes, you get access to a bunch of different systems, lots of games within them. Because I already feel that like, because this is just one of the pillars here of this online service, and so I don't think it can completely replace Virtual Console with just my like $20 a year basically.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas how many Virtual Console games would $20 buy you? Not that many.
Oh, not a lot, and that it buys you only maybe 2 N64 games, I believe. Or
yeah, that sounds about right. And so like I feel if they would want to like kind of really blow this up, they would have to kind of go beyond how they're currently funding it, which is just and this really is just kind of like a cherry on top thing. Like this, I don't think it's meant to be like the flagship feature. It's meant to be like, oh, like the other systems do free games, so we should probably do free games as well as part of our online initiative, opposed to like actually replacing how they make revenue on their classics. So I think there's more to this picture, but I like this because on a very basic level, it would be good just to play some classics like Zelda and Mario 3 and things like that, just portably on that nice screen, or just being able to
on that screen
on the TV.
Yeah, on that screen, even though it is possible to do. We have definitely played Mario 3 like on our 3DS, for instance. We're able to play those.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just mean like on that kind of system we're currently using. And like you do have the unique things about the Switch, like the snap-off Joy-Con controllers. So it's going to have a nice novelty factor of just stocking it up, and maybe somebody who doesn't even play games that often anymore, you go, oh, you remember this, here you go, here's a Joy-Con, just think of it as an NES pad, and you're good to go already. That's just one of the many things available on the Switch Online, although to be fair, I would call these the two main features here.
The two ones basically worth talking about. The others we knew were coming, but being cloud saves and the NES games that are mentioned in a bit of a Netflix style type of, which by the way, somebody mentioned online, it's okay with the fact that it's an NES game, but they missed an opportunity to call it Netflix. Okay, there might have been some legal problems with that, but still.
My initial reaction to that wasn't good, but I'm already growing up to the idea.
Oh no, yeah, you're just sitting there like, oh, that is bad.
But it sticks with you or very quickly. A feature we probably shouldn't brush over um, is what this whole system's about, really. Like it should have been fairly obvious about this next part, as in this is going to give you the ability to play games online, which means you won't be able to play games online for free after this comes out. And now, like this was pretty much said by Nintendo, but I still heard chatter both on Twitter and podcasts and such of people saying, "Oh, it's because it's been so long now, and the service was delayed that they're going to have to rethink that because it's." And I see the logic here that because it's been established, it's been a thing for now for quite a while, like over a year. That it's going to seem more like you're taking something away than you're actually giving something when this service goes live.
Mhm.
But they're sticking to their guns. Although this is an odd one which has another asterisk next to it. And so it's certain games you'll need this for to play online, but not all games, it seems. And so they gave examples, and the examples were Splatoon 2, ARMS, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Tennis Aces, and Sushi Striker: The Way of the Sushido. But yeah, it's seemingly some games won't require it.
No Smash mentioned on there, unfortunately.
True, I imagine Smash will require it, if things like Splatoon do. But yeah, maybe like I don't know. I don't know if there's an opt-in thing. It's up to Nintendo's discretion or something free, or it's up to the developer, like indie games will be, unless they get a cut from Nintendo. I have no idea why it's a thing like that. Or it might just be some weird wording where like they leave it like that. So when like certain apps could do it, or a game could opt to be free only if it was like non-competitive, like it was just for like leaderboards or something. They could, all right, yeah, you don't need the paid service to pull down the online. Or maybe it's like weird, like for games which let you like buy things through the game, like microtransactions, where like the developer wouldn't want to demand you having online access for you to buy content in the game, even if because you're not using it in like a competitive online fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's some weird thing around that, but it's definitely a point to note. It might be that certain games are, certain games aren't.
Yeah, that too, whatever. I mean, again, the small little caveats we're seeing these sprinkled, which gives us more questions to ask, and the full thing, like, well, you gave us the details, but you're labeling with more questions. Obviously, that's what we're just scrambling to. Is just going to give Nintendo the way of like much like how. Kind of like how with a video capture feature, or even like video capture feature that some games do support it, like, but others don't, or like I'm saying, like other third parties can opt in if they want to do it or not.
I think it's possibly like that. Hopefully, it's less technical on that side. Well, I guess it's more of it's a weird pro-consumer thing. If it's something that they do need to add in, and then so any games which don't have that update will always be free. I guess that would be good for us. We'll have to see though which way that goes.
Now, and I know one thing as far as the online play, Nintendo doesn't really have the best of features when it comes to like great servers. I haven't really experienced really bad servers plays with like Splatoon 2 right now, but obviously there's still things need to be kind of like worked out a little bit more, knowing that when people are going to be paying with this, and you kind of hope that, hey, since we're paying for this, hopefully this is getting a better infrastructure to keep things up to date and in maintenance and everything's flowing smoothly. I mean, I will definitely say that, hey, like the servers that I had with Super Smash Brothers for Wii U were far better than what I got on Brawl, which felt just unplayable. But obviously, if you played a 4-player match in different servers, yes, there were going to be problems that you're going to have, unless you had like what I did was a 2-on-2 match, or whatever, and it was in the same room, the same server. So I'm just hoping this is just smoothed out, whatever. And by the way, Mario Kart 8, at least that online structure has been improved a lot. But I know there are worries, but there are worries with this, but enough for me to realize I'm just hoping it's improved.
Indeed, and talking about hoping for things to be improved.
Yeah.
Another part of this announcement is obviously the Nintendo Switch Online app, which really, or at least was originally like the center of focus, because that's where all the communication of your online network is done.
It needs to be burnt to the ground, rebuilt, and done again. I said before, the idea of an app to use this, I don't mind, even though it's just a lot streamlined better if you could just do it through the console itself. I feel like it can do that. I mean, we got that especially with the DS Lite, I believe, once within there. I mean, it shouldn't be that. I know I hate to say like, oh, it shouldn't be that hard because I'm not within the company or I've not developed this device. But yeah, that app, it's like access to the app. I'm just like, oh, joy. I'm hoping this is getting, it is reworked, overhauled, and just gutted out to a point where I don't have to remind myself of what the beta version of this, or whatever a lower version you can think of like that released can think of. It's just, yeah, it needs a lot of work from now and then.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping today we would hear more about that, in a positive way. Like we would hear how the app was changing and how it would genuinely add value to our online. But they didn't take any time to mention any of that stuff. Apart from that, oh, it is still a thing, and that is how you communicate. And it also doesn't help. They have the usual proviso of incompatible games, because currently, and yes, it's in quotes beta currently, but the only game which supports it is Splatoon 2. And it's not like it's been their only online competitive game by any means. They've had quite a few, and some which would be really good for this, and some which would make perfect sense. I know I bark about it on and on, but so do Nintendo. You would have assumed if it was capable of, they would have chucked an ARMS hub on there to give that as much, chance as it could. Even if it was just a little, using it as a little advertising window, essentially, because all you see currently, you launch is a big Splatoon 2 logo. I'm hoping the beta is a beta in that sense. Like, there is a much more full-fledged app which we just don't have access to yet, because this is what we have access to because the service isn't actually live yet. We're not actually in charge for it, so this was just a something they can get out there to help Splatoon 2. So yeah, I'm hoping this has a full upgrade, like a significant upgrade across the board. But I wouldn't bank on it, just because I would feel if it was, this is the moment they would be shouting about it. And there are some points they say, oh, details will be coming later before the service is announced. So maybe they will just do a more of a grand unveiling of what this is, and that will be the time they go into what they consider the nitty gritty, but will be the much more interesting stuff for us. Of just how are we actually going to talk to people online through games which aren't Splatoon 2? How is it actually going to work? Hopefully Nintendo will have some things to talk about soon on that front.
Here's hoping, because I run out of ways to call this app, whether it's a garbage fire, dumpster fire, or tire fire. I don't know, whatever, anything with fires, basically, with the trash I'm trying to think of. It's just, but yeah, if you're listening, please fix it, please. If not, just have an overall voice chat system. I mean, again, I've said before that I'm not the biggest fan of voice chat, but or there were thoughts about, like, you think like, oh, would they partner with like Discord or something for their own server or something like that? But that's obviously not the case. But
no, doesn't seem to be the case at the very least. If they are, something's going. But yeah, I'm assuming this is all DNA's work. This is when they called about making a unified system and all that. It was all what DNA is going to do, and I guess that this is that. It must be getting an overhaul. They've poured a lot of money into mobile companies now, and at the time, a lot of the reasoning behind it was to do things like this. So hopefully those guys are doing things like this, but we're just not using it yet. Here's
yell louder.
Exactly, yeah. And they're all the main details. We also do have special offers, though. And this one, they've not really elaborated more than they initially said. So occasionally there will be special offers available if you are a paid subscriber. So you'll be able to get extra gold or get discounts off of digital.
Maybe that's what we're going off thinking. Like, oh, there could be ideas.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, sorry, that's more speculation than.
That was more my idea. Sorry, I should have put that in the notes. But no, hopefully this just goes on top of people who use. I mean, the ideas we can throw on there is that on top of the overall what we saw of the platinum, gold, silver system that we see with My Nintendo, we could easily see something where it's like this is where the other comparisons to PSN and Xbox Live Gold are going into, where it's like, who knows, along down the line we could probably get, hey, here's a free Switch game that you can have on your Switch as long as you still have the service. There could be that, or it could be they could go lower as maybe an indie title, or maybe a certain game with online. And also, if you're buying these games digitally or something like that, you're getting more gold coin. You're getting more gold coins for it. Or physical, obviously you're getting less, but more for that as well. If you actually have like the subscription. So they're up there. I mean, those to me I put on there, but yeah, not much really on the special offers there.
All right. So I think that kind of quite naturally draws us to the question, which is,
I do have Collins did not hear. He did have to offer his words on it. Want me to read it off for you?
Well, that will fit quite nicely into that. We'll let Colin lead, but the question I was going to ask is kind of what are our overall thoughts of the service, knowing these details now, with the costs. And so I guess we'll let Colin lead.
All right. Now, this is, of course, he said this right before he announced that he was not going to come to the show tonight. But his thoughts are just a quick thought on the online service so that you can mention on the show. I like the price point. Everything else about what I expected. And the Nintendo Entertainment System collection is meh. Would have preferred Super Nintendo. I agree, but both is for me is on there. I hope that lineup the next 10 games is a lot better than what we got right now. Granted, I love Super Mario Brothers 3, so.
Cool. Anything else to add about the online in general?
Wait, do I call on or me?
For yourself. Yeah, I definitely got anything else.
Myself, it's things on here are what I expected. I'm joyful that we're getting cloud saves, even though you're going to get sides that feel like you shouldn't be paying for something like this. But for $20 a month, which to me,
it's point bit.
It's fine. It's like 20. Okay, that is. Although it's not as everything else that it's, even though there's still stuff that's behind curtains right now, whether it's special offers and whether the Switch app is going to get an overhaul. I'm not holding my breath for that, obviously, anymore. And of course, what we're going to see as far as the online classics collections that's going to come onto it. And of course, if this server is going to be, is this going to be operating, hopefully better than what Nintendo has had in the past, or is this going to operate on a $20 level we're going to see? But it's what you at the price is what you expect. And I'm only hopeful that it actually is like they just fine-tuned it a little bit more. So yeah.
Cool. Well, for myself, in terms of the value, I'm pretty happy with it. Oddly, most of that comes from the non-core bit of it. Not that I'm happy that I get to pay like £20 essentially to play Nintendo games online, because I feel that in itself is not worth it. Which is weird. I mean, in a weird way, it probably is, but not for the reasons it should be. Not because they're adding value, just because I like playing Nintendo games online. And a lot of Nintendo games don't require communication. I can play a lot of Splatoon 2, and I don't use the voice chat. And it's not actually because of the voice chat, because of the app. It's just because the modes I play don't actually use it, which is a weird thing in itself. So mostly play rank mode, and there's no voice chat in rank mode. You can do it in League, but that's quite a different thing. You've got to play with actual 4 friends, and that's just not how I play that game. So that much doesn't affect me. But if I'm just looking at, I'm getting 20 classic, at minimum 20 classic games, well, that's $1 a game. I bought a lot of virtual console games at a lot higher prices. I obviously wouldn't have buy all these games, but they're going to add to the service. So I think that's going to be good value right there. And cloud saves. So that plus cloud saves, I think, is worth the value for me.
I'm curious, though, they didn't really mention as far as space that we'll have for cloud saves on there, or I feel like would it just be unlimited?
That's true. I guess I imagine it's going to be unlimited. But yeah, that is an interesting point. I wonder if they will make you manage that data. We will have to see. I'm not sure that goes with with compatible games. Maybe if a game's save file's too big, it just won't support backing it up. That could be a route they take. So if they just let you upload reasonably sized save files, then that's fine, because it won't really be that much space.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with like people in the pricing on there, like whether to have. I feel like if I can understand one's logic if you're actually, again, it leads down to maintenance and ecosystem. Like you're getting paid for this $20, so it's you have like say if you weren't paying for the service, they would have like, hey, you'll get like this very tiny amount of like cloud storage for this, but if you want more, you're gonna have to pay for this unlimited or something like that. That I can understand, but it's I'm okay with it, but also I have some things I'm not so happy about it.
I think that seems fair. I think that's kind of the common reception of this as well.
And the people who complain about Virtual Console branding, the name going away when they said they wanted the Virtual Console to be fixed. Okay, I know it's a start with what we have with these games, but if it gets better in time, then let's just say the old system of the Virtual Console was just not good. Pricing wise, it is a bummer that we're not going to be able to transfer some of these games back, but that's the case of having just to burn everything down and start over.
Yeah, I think that much was going to be inevitable, no matter which way they tackled this. But yeah, I do hope more systems, more games in some form, even if it's not just this, where it's, well, it sounds like it's not being in quotes virtual console, but whether it's a different service or part of this or whatever, I do hope we have the option to play retro games, or specifically Nintendo's retro games on other systems on the Switch.
Yep.
So looking forward to that. Assuming that happens. Yep. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap up our Nintendo Switch Online talk. I think we've covered that quite well.
Yeah, I think we did as well to nit and gritty of it all, and I'm curious what all y'all think.
Indeed. Do send in your thoughts. And what I would like to add before we close up the show is this does actually mark our 3-year anniversary of the podcast. So woohoo us.
Woohoo indeed.
This isn't our 3-year anniversary special episode. That will be coming up soon when we look back, as it were, or at least celebrate the last 3 years. But yeah, no, this marks the date though. So congrats to us.
3 years since we started this little thing up, and look where we are now.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, in different places indeed. So let's do that usual thing we do before we end the show, where we let you know where you can get hold of us and anything else we've been up to that we'd like you to know about. Harrison, how can people get hold of you?
You can reach me online through Twitter at hmilfeld, and if you want to add me on Switch Friend, hoping I'm not running out of friend space on there. My friend code, which, well, but yeah, my friend code is. I'm like, oh god, I'm still doing that, but you can reach me. You can find my friend code at the pin to the top of my Twitter profile.
Excellent. Yeah, that wasn't part of this news today. That friends codes were being changed to names or just searchable things.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I think that's not tied to this. I think that's more of a system update where you just like, hey, you can search viewers' names. So
that's true. Yeah, that would be a real nasty thing to put behind a paywall. It's the ability to search for friends by their name. But you never know. If you want to get hold of me, either Twitter or Instagram, the name you need is Luvsion, and the way you spell that is Leuvsion. All I want to say is do keep a watch out for anything Nintendo Voice related, either on Nintendo or the show itself. We will be dropping those big announcements soon, and so yeah, please be excited, as they say. And so this has been Nintendo Voice. Thanks for listening.
Take care, everybody.